I was a turdy boy. Is basically the rest of that song.
Yeah. So
I think a good way to it's not going to bury the hatchet. But I think a good start would be to buy him a really nice chess set.
Oh yeah,
because I think you have to try and. I think there is a way back. I was watching the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion show the other night. Have you guys seen that?
Not the reunion show.
I heard about
The
it.
only reason I'm bringing it up is because I don't know if you guys are aware. Halfway through the show, they replaced the aunt in the show with another actor, right? And they delve into it in the documentary where like Will Smith and the cast hadn't spoken to her for 27 years or something like that since the show ended. So they actually bring her back for the reunion, and Will Smith and her have a one-on-one conversation. And it's kind of crazy because she's up front. She's like, "You ruined my life." She's like, "I was blacklisted. My career was done, etc., etc." But then she's the person who essentially is like, "You're willing to have a dialogue. I want to heal. Like, I want to fix this relationship, even though you basically ruined my professional career," which is really big of her to do, because if she held that grudge, I'd kind of be like, fair enough, the Fresh Prince is a bit of a jerk. So at this point, the guy he bullied doesn't seem ready to even have that conversation, but I think the bully needs to initiate it somehow. And I think buying him a new chess set is at least being like, "Hey, look, I'm really sorry. I want to, make up for how I treated you in the past."
I feel like that is a great way, but it's also one of those things where you can give him the chess set, but don't expect him to just forgive you then and there.
Absolutely.
You give it and he might still hate you, and you got to accept, hey, I was a jerk back then, and I'm reaping what I sow here. I have got to deal with it until he sort of comes around.
I think it's also, he probably shouldn't assume that he's like, "You still love chess, right? Remember that?" Like, that's what I used to make up. Like, that's the only thing he knows about him is like, "You're in chess club, so I'm assuming you just love these little pieces and the checkers boards and whatever the fuck this game is."
That's a good point, because the guy could maybe take it as an insult and be like, "Because of you, I never picked up a pawn again. Like, you ruined chess for me."
Yeah.
What you could do, look, a new chess set is actually probably very expensive. Even just buy him lunch or a beer or something like that, and try and just sort of mend it slowly. And it's perseverance as well. You can't be disheartened. If you want to sort of mend this relationship or friendship or even just workership, I don't know what you call it. But then you got to persevere. You got to say, "All right, let me buy you a beer." He says, "No, all right, no worries. That's all right. You do you." And then just try again next time and next time. Wear him down sort of thing, but in a nice way. Wear him down with kindness. Wear him down.
Wear him down.
Wear him down with kindness.
You're contradicting yourself with the point that I agree with before, which you said if he's not willing to meet you halfway, then you got to leave him if he doesn't want to forgive you. You can't force it.
No, you can't force it, but you just be nice. That's it. Just be nice.
Yes.
Find out what they're into. If they're not still into chess, you might find out that the last 15 years, all he's been doing is being really into Steven Seagal movies, and he's learned how to give you choker holds, and like he just puts you to sleep in the break room or something like that.
He starts touching your pressure points.
I mean, yeah, you should have known because he now has a ponytail. That's a dead giveaway.
He turns the break room into the breakneck room and just takes the guy out in there.
He's like written it on the actual break, and he's added the little arrow, the breakneck.
Oh, man.
Well, so do we want to say that like he should try to make amends with him? He needs to change his attitude, Death Row, right?
Absolutely, yeah. He can't look at himself as the victim. He has to try and make amends for what he did to this guy, because it clearly left an impression on him.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. I think that's fair enough. Let's leave that there for Death Row as far as the advice goes. Now, Marcus, you're up next.
This is a challenging one for me, because I tend to just like look for like what's the high ranking game, and then I'll download it, and that's what I play. So it's hard for me to pick. However, there's a little hidden gem that I want some people to play. It's called Hue. It's a platformer. It's a really cute little game. I recommend it. So that's why I'm gonna suggest people to play it.
Very good.
Hugh writes in, "Do you think it's right to make us serve a 4-hour Saturday detention from 7 months ago? Last March, myself and 8 friends got caught bunking off lessons. We left the school and went out shopping to the shopping center. We got caught on the way back, and we were all given 4-hour Saturday detentions as punishment. Then came the COVID thing, and school was closed. On Monday, we went back to school, and myself and my friends were all told that we would still have to serve our Saturday detentions. We all thought that it had all been forgotten about, but our head of year said punishments must and will be served. I think it's wrong to punish us after this time. What do you guys think? Hugh?
Kudos to the teacher for actually remembering, because most of this year for me has been a blur. I don't think I'd remember if I gave somebody detention 7 months ago.
It's all in the, like that. This is all the teacher had to hold on to for those 8 months. Like they were stuck in lockdown. They had to deal with these shits over through like Skype and all that. Like, oh man, I can't wait to give them this punishment. Like when they get back, they're gonna fucking get it, and they got it.
I mean, it's an important life lesson to be like, time doesn't sort of like, if you get a fine or something like that, leaving the fine and not doing anything doesn't make things better, doesn't make things go away, doesn't make your debt go away. It's like the debt is always going to be there waiting for you. So this teacher's teaching them something that they can't learn in the classroom every day.
Wait, I haven't been paying my home loan for the last 7 months. I thought the bank would have just forgotten about it. What are you talking about?
Don't worry, they do forget those things, Damien. Don't worry about it.
What do you think about if the teachers tried to impose a Zoom detention? If they're just like, you have to sit in front of your webcam for the next 4 hours.
I mean, look, there are ways you can get around and like having a fake background or having a video recording of yourself sitting there. So I would think that you couldn't trust it unless you had to sort of say every 10 minutes, they're like, all right, I need you to do this, or have like a certain activity, like raise your left arm, raise your right. Yeah, exactly. To keep you there. I mean, that's not a bad idea. That's just as bad of punishment.
Yes and no, because you could totally just like, play video games on a computer while like looking at the screen like, oh yeah, I'm doing work, and or whatever it might be.
That's true.
So I think it's harder to maintain through a Zoom call.
I want to say though, like I'm kind of on the side of the person that's had the detention, in the sense of being like, you've had this school year that's been pretty much disappeared. Like you haven't had a normal school year and you've lost a lot of experience, and I feel like the teacher should have a little bit of leeway for them and be like, you've had a rough year, you know what, I'll let it slide this time. I'll let it slide. And I feel like that's sort of, I mean, I work at a school and I feel like that's like a good attitude to have. They've had a rough year. This is some of their last years of school. It's supposed to be a big year and they've sort of missed a lot of it. So let them sort of just get away with a little bit here and there.
I tend to agree with you, but however, I like to think that it's like in that 7 month, 8 month period, they probably would have gotten plenty of detentions. Maybe not. I don't know how much of a troublesome kid they are. So one detention at the end of it to make up for like all the times you missed it. Although I tend to agree with you. Sitting at home locked in a house is a detention enough.
We love to play devil's avocado on this show. So I'm going to go, I agree with Tom, but I do think maybe we don't know how much of a turd this kid is and his group of friends are. The reason why the teacher might be hanging on to this, like, do you know, like in police procedural shows where it's like, we've got this one thing against him, we need to try and nail him with it, right? Like he's got something he can finally punish them with. He's like, they always get away with it. There could be really bad students. He's like, I am going to uphold this because this is the goddamn law and they deserve it, which is maybe why he's holding on to it so much.
We also have to assume that there's a good chance if they're a turd of a student, they would have been a turd student in all of the Zoom classes too. And I don't think that I wonder if there's been punishments during Zoom classes, you know what I mean? Or they're just like, all right, you're leaving the room, and what do you like, put them in a waiting room, or you leave, you have to like kick them out of the actual point. How do you discipline people in a Zoom room?
Oh, that'd be horrible. I wanted to ask you guys, pose this question. I'm not sure if we've actually got to this, but detentions. Were you guys regularly in the detention? Do you have an experience from a detention that you're like, oh, that was pretty bad?
I think I only got detention maybe twice in my schooling life. And what they would make you do is you'd go into a room after school, and you weren't allowed to do your own homework. They just gave you this. I remember it was like this sheet. It was like an information sheet on like, I think hair. It was like a hair follicle and like the anatomy of a hair follicle. And then they were like, read this and then write 1,000 words on this. And you basically had to do work that was irrelevant to your life. You couldn't just sit there and do nothing. You couldn't sit there and do personal work. You were basically given a task. And then at the end of it, they would just sort of throw it out anyway. So it's like, what's the point of even doing it? It's just really had to waste your time.
Well, that hair task played dividends. It explains why Tom's got such amazing hair all the time, because that must have really stuck with him.
Luscious and beautiful hair.
The anatomy of a hair follicle.
Exactly. We're the questionnaires and Tom is the questionnaire because it's always on point.
Explains it.
I actually went to detention once, and I recall I wasn't a regular in detention or anything like that, but I did get called into detention once, and I remember the reason because it was an absolute bullshit reason. Our school, we got banned from our teachers to actually go to a train station. in uniform, after school, before school, whatever it was. We were not allowed to go to a particular train station. Dave, you know which one it was, or the rule we had.
Yeah.
And it was a case of we were there in our school clothes at this train station. I won't say principal, it was like a vice principal or head of discipline, whatever you want to call him. He drove past in his car.
Like, I'm born for this. I'm head of discipline.
Yeah. He drove in his car, drove past, like it was like a drive-by shooting, and just like throwing out detention papers, like. Yeah, exactly. So I went to this detention.
Marcus almost gets away, and he hits a detention, hits him in the back, and he falls down like in Platoon with like arms up to the sky.
Detention slips.
Yeah, and I remember I was there with the mate, and it was like, no, you got to go to a Saturday detention. So we got there, and I thought, oh man, this is gonna be horrible. Like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. on a Saturday until 12. And we get there, and he goes, all right, guys, you sit in the back because I'm actually teaching my like year 12 class now, or I'm doing like a catch-up class or whatever it is. So you sit in the back and just do your homework. I'm like, oh, okay. So for the next like 3 hours, I just did all my homework, and then I was like, this actually has freed up my whole weekend. This detention worked out lovely. I love detention.
Thanks, detention.
Yeah. And then I never got detention again. But yeah.
I'm really captivated by this rule of not going to a particular train station in uniform. So if that was part of your, like, you had to go there to get home, you were expected to change out of uniform and be like a plainclothes student?
That was no. So the idea was because for some reason at this particular train station, a lot of our students got into trouble there, whether it be fights or anything like that. So they were trying to diminish that. But like you said, if you have to go that way, you have to go that way. So that now they've actually got a dedicated bus for that school that goes to that station and deals with that stuff because of that. Yeah.
Jeez. Interesting stuff. Interesting turf wars.
One that stands out for me was actually in like year 6. I don't remember what me and two of my other friends did, but it was for more than one lunchtime, they made me and my two other friends sit on the floor facing a wall, but the punishment was the down ball wall that everybody used to play down ball with. But the teacher said, I mean, it wasn't like a firing squad. People weren't throwing tennis balls at us as we sat there. But the teacher said, because of like Damien and what his mates did, not only do they have to sit here for all of lunchtime, but nobody's allowed to use the down ball wall. So you can thank Damien and Co for that. So they were putting the onus on us for ruining down ball. And the idea was like, we were so close to lunchtime, but we couldn't participate with anybody. Nobody could come speak to us. So we just sat there staring at a brick wall, which I thought was a bit too extreme. Like I was in grade 6 and I was being tried like I was at The Hague or something like that.
Yeah, to be like, you look at the wall and like you can't, you like, here is the wall right in front of you. You want to bounce a ball against it so bad, but I'm not letting you. And you got to look at that wall that's not being bounced on and just sit there and think about your crime.
I remember in my primary school, that was actually a regular punishment. Like it was a known punishment. Yeah. So what would happen is like if you got punished by a teacher for whatever reason and they really want to punish you, it was like, you're going to be at the wall or lunchtime or whatever it is. So you would constantly see kids not against like this wall wasn't used for down ball or any reason. This was used for the punishment wall. This was, hey, you've been a bad kid, stare at that wall for all of lunchtime or half of lunchtime or whatever it is. And whoever the teacher was on duty, they would just walk around and make sure that you're staring at that wall. That's it.
Is the wall a Game of Thrones thing as well? To be like, he's going to be punished, send him to the wall.
Yeah, it is.
It's like do the walk of shame to the wall of shame.
Yeah.
It does make it seem more dramatic, doesn't it? Almost like it's like the Berlin Wall, where all the naughty kids are on the east side and all the good kids are on the other side, type of thing. Yeah, it just felt too dramatic for primary school, but I don't know. Does your school do weekend detentions, Tom? Is that something that's part of the repertoire?
No, I don't think weekend detentions are a thing, because I think that might be one of those things that's like from a liability point of view. It's like I think the line is in Mean Girls, like, we'll keep you here as long as we have to. And then they said, legally we can only keep you here till 4. We will keep you here till 4. Like, it's like you don't realize how like less of a control you have. And now with sort of, I guess, safety issues and bringing people in outside of hours and things like that, I think it's all but killed the weekend detention. And basically you can get after school detention, but it's still a limited amount of time.
Right. I would imagine as well, someone needs to actually take care of these kids. So it's punishment to whoever has to take care of the kids too. So like, you're getting Saturday detention and I'm going to have to be here on Saturday too. Fuck that shit.
Why did I do it? Why did I hand it out?
Why did I do that? Yeah.
They can just hire that robot from that soccer match and put ball caps on all the kids, and that way they'll be watched at all times.
Yeah, we're not going to miss you. We're going to track you like a good robot would. I don't know. What do you want to say for Hugh? Do we say?
I would say take the pen. Like, you've done the crime, you do the time. You're not going to win any argument. You're not going to do anything like by you not attending this punishment or anything like that. You're just going to make it worse for yourself. Just do the time. I know it's 7 months ago. I know it's a pain in the ass, but yeah, like you said, if you rob a bank and it's like, oh, look, I robbed the bank and it was like, 12 months ago, who cares now? You're still going to like pay for it. Yeah. So